Hello you people, this is come on, this is Emilio4J and we are starting the stream for today. We are right now, what are we doing? Let's find out. So the building ancient Egypt. So we'll now learn about the buildings and structures in ancient Egypt. We know that Imhotep was a very important engineer at back in that time. So maybe we'll learn more about him. Like we knew that Imhotep is just a supervillain from Hollywood movies, but it's not exactly like that. He was a brilliant engineer who kind of initiated the shape of the pyramids, which we know as now. So let's learn about it. Maybe I'm not so sure what it will tell us, but to learn we need to start.
Ancient Egypt.
Okay.
Constructed with bricks made of mud, most ancient Egyptian buildings were not permanent. Only religious temples and funerary monuments were meant to stand the ravages of time.
Okay.
For these very important structures, Egyptians used limestone, sandstone, and harder materials such as granite, quartzite, and travertine. These heavy stone blocks were so prized that they were often transported from quarries located hundreds of kilometers away.
Obviously, it is not an easy thing to have at that time. Like mining is very new thing at the time, I guess. Yeah, this is a very organized mine. Just the tools are primitive and everything else looks so modern. Like even they have cranes made out of wood. Yeah, interesting. Let's continue.
Limestone was common and easy to extract from quarries on the east bank of the Nile. This particular limestone had marine fossils in it, however, preventing it from being easily decorated and polished.
Okay.
Used as the main building material, the structure would then be finished with a finer limestone that was polished smooth and decorated as needed. Limestone was used for the building of the first pyramids and for most of the religious buildings of the Old and Middle Kingdoms.
Okay. So the limestones were not pure enough.
Ancient Egyptians preferred to use sedimentary rock beds or layers like sandstone and limestone because they were often easier to extract. The common method used to extract stone was the open pit quarry. Stonecutters would find quality stone, shape, and dig it out on site. Open pit quarries enabled many workers to work simultaneously on many blocks, which allowed for better productivity. Workers would draw a large grid directly on the stone's surface, taking care to leave a space between the blocks. This allowed them to isolate the different blocks and create a trench that would make the extraction easier.
They would cut out each stone.
Used iron chisels for hard rock and bronze or copper tools for softer rocks such as limestone.
That is crazy. It will take
Removing
ages.
material between each block created a trench line. In some quarries, that trench was wide enough to accommodate a worker, who would then cut the block entirely on site. For harder rocks like granite, workers cut a series of holes and hammered wooden wedges into them. They then soaked the wood until it swelled and caused the rock to split.
Wow. But these kind of stones were used to make the pyramids. They are like complete whole stones. Interesting. We have seen this artwork before. Yeah, we have seen this before. But their method is really like needs a lot of hard work. Not easy at all.
The gallery extraction technique was used when the desired rock was buried under layers of rubble. This method was often necessary in order to find the whiter and finer limestone required for a smoother finish. The first step was for the stoneworkers to create an access pit that would allow them to reach the desired wall of stone. Once a wall of quality stone was exposed, workers could then cut out smaller blocks. This pit required a descending platform. Designed like a stairway, it allowed them to free multiple galleries of blocks.
They're talking about this one. Not so sure.
To cut the stone, they created a longitudinal kerf, or slit, and then cut the rock at a 90-degree angle. The lower side was determined along the geological layers or by using a horizontal cut. Wooden wedges were inserted in the rock and hammered in. Shock waves were then generated using hammers, fracturing the blocks at the seam.
Lot of hard work. Not easy for today's man to work on this. Like, he would ask for a very high wage for doing this. Although they didn't have the technology, so whatever they were doing, they were really advanced at that time.
To maintain the stability of these mining pits over the course of quarrying, workers would leave support sections of unexcavated rock.
Okay, so these things. So these things are like, in India we have rock temples, rock castles, mostly in the South Indian part. It's all over the country, but mostly South Indian parts and Central India. You will see caves dug out like this, and a complete structure. There is no joints or things like that. Like we see some kind of joint happening here, but in real world situation it will be just a curve and continuity, so that it has a very strong grip and very strong support to the roof. So yeah, very much like India. Interesting. Let's continue. You guys must know the Ajanta and Ellora caves from India. It's pretty popular. It's a rock temple or rock cave, so entirely carved out like this. Maybe the temples were made in the process of cutting out stones. Maybe so they were taking out stones and they thought of decorating the place. So from mine it became a temple. Like when you see at the location of the Ajanta and Ellora and many other places, they are in way remote places, way away from the city. So maybe they were mines, and later they decided to decorate it. Hello Him Robotics, how are you doing? Thank you for joining the stream, brother. Okay, so let's continue to the next checkpoint.
In every quarry, dedicated shrines were established to offer protection for the workers. In particular, Serket, the scorpion goddess, was considered a very powerful deity among quarry workers. Every mine and quarry of ancient Egypt included a scorpion charmer who was said to use magical powers to ward off the dangerous insects and keep the workers safe.
Scorpion charmers. So we have seen there are different gods for farmers, for the kings. So for the miners it was the scorpions. Interesting. So I can just sleep over here. No, we are not sleeping today. Let's jump to the next one. This is workers and transport. We will learn about it. So we learned about the quarry right now, and we will now learn about the workers and transport. Like we are not sure that if Egypt had wheels or not. Like we see some hint of logs being used to roll the stones away, but maybe this story will tell us how they used to transport items. But we have wheels, we have chariot in the game. But maybe in the beginning of the time when the Egypt was new, maybe they didn't have wheels, or for rock and things like that they didn't have wheels. So we'll know about it. Let's stop assuming and progress with this story.
And transport.
Yes, Miss Narrator, we want to know.
Whether workers were employed for the pyramid construction or at the quarries, the government supplied food and housing.
That's a happy life.
Workers for the pyramids and royal necropolises were housed in more permanent villages, such as the famous Deir el-Medina. Quarry workers had more temporary lodgings. All skill levels were needed and utilized, from basic work hands to prepare the gypsum, to brickmakers and sand carriers, to skilled stonemasons to shape the blocks.
Okay, so they are building something over here? Let's learn about it.
Skilled architects and engineers were employed year-round, while support labor were often farmers who worked on the quarries or construction during the Nile's flood season.
Okay.
The basic laborers were hardworking and versatile. Many may have been farmers who joined the construction during the off-season. Hieroglyphs found in the work villages listed assigned job titles.
Interesting. So farmers were working here too. Worker shortage, I guess.
Archaeological research shows that no food was stored or prepared on site, but instead workers received abundant rations of bread, beer, and meat. These rations were taken care of by an administration outside the village. Medical treatment was also available for those who were injured.
That's a nice way to do it, and they were saving a lot of time by providing them ready to eat food. Interesting way to do it. Yeah, Ajanta and Ellora caves. You have visited it before? I have never been there. I've heard a lot about it. Maybe we should visit someday. So, is the chat showing up in the screen? I'm not so sure. Oh, chat box was off. So Hem Robotics was sharing that he had visited the Ajanta and Ellora cave, and I was responding to that. Okay, so yeah, now the chat should show up. It was.
While some quarries were close to the Nile, others were located across the desert and required long expeditions. These expeditions were sanctioned by the state. They involved complex logistics and required many participants. Transporting a block by land meant that workers had to overcome the weight and friction of the load. To solve this, they first dug a track in the ground. This path was sometimes reinforced with rails upon which a sled, used to ferry the blocks, would be pulled.
Wow, this is too much work for one block of stone. And imagine how many of these will be needed to make a whole pyramid. Or even a temple. Lot of work.
Whenever possible, blocks were toppled from a higher elevation onto the sled. Workers then poured water onto the clay at the front of the sled, creating a slick surface to more easily move the load. It wasn't until the New Kingdom that animals were used to tow the burden.
Okay, so later they use the animals. Now here you see this is a scene from Bahubali. If you have seen the Bahubali, the heavily advertised movie. I didn't like the movie personally, but the special effects were fine. But yeah, this is something like that movie. An entire statue is being moved in the same sledge-like structure, and people are pulling it off. This is crazy. Like a very big chance that this statue will break, and don't know what will happen to these laborers if it breaks down. It will be really bad for them. Do we have any other information about here? So no, nothing that interesting. So these are some digital collections from New York. Let's continue.
During flood season, the Nile was at its largest and deepest, which allowed the transportation of the heaviest and biggest loads.
Okay.
Quarries close to the river had troughs dug out to deliver the stones to the shoreline.
These ones.
Harbors and wharfs situated at the river's edge allowed the transfer of materials and supplies. Harbor warehouses accommodated additional stocks of stone so that they were available for the winter sailing season.
Interesting. So the entire transport system is mainly based on the river, and where there is not river, they have dug out channels so that they can move the heavy loads. Interesting. They are smart, very smart.
The Uwadi El Jarf papyri detail a limestone load intended for the Khufu pyramid that weighed in at 70 to 80 tons, or 30 blocks. One papyrus is a fragment from a foreman's notes taken while working on the Great Pyramid. It details the transportation of limestone blocks from the Tura quarries to the construction site of the pyramid. The other papyri are shipping logs containing archives of the sailors assigned to sail the Red Sea and the Nile.
Interesting. So yeah, Hem Robotic is sharing that the outside environment was so hot and all the caves are so cool. That was so amazing experience. Yeah, it should be, because I don't know, because maybe there is no sunlight. We'll have to go and experience that. And maybe people used to live there in the Ajanta and Ellora caves because it was cool. India is hot. Okay, let's jump into this one. Okay, yeah.
Stone cargo generally weighed 15 tons per boat, amounting to roughly 6 or 7 blocks per trip. For heavier loads such as obelisks, monolithic pillars, or gigantic statues, larger boats were used. These transports are the ones typically showcased on temple walls.
Interesting. So, some artwork showing the process. Let's continue. What are they doing over here? They're loading the stone on the sledge. These guys are just talking, and yeah.
River transportation was the most efficient way to ferry stone blocks between the quarry and the construction site. Blocks were transported by flotillas of several types of boats. The most detailed illustration of transport by river is a relief of Queen Hatshepsut's barge with an accompanying flotilla.
Interesting. So we don't see any stones on this boat, but they are pretty big enough. Maybe they used to carry stones on it. So they're all man-powered. They used to row the, what is it called? Pedals? There is a proper name for that. I keep forgetting. Okay, they used to do that to row the boat. So from here they carried away the stone to the ship, and then the ship took it away to different places. Okay, we learned about the transportation. What else do we have? We learned that there were quarries that used to cut stones into large rectangular pieces, and then we learned about the transportations. Now next, what do we have? Let's initiate this one. So agriculture and season. Interesting. Like when we think of Egypt, we think of desert. We don't think of agriculture and farming, etc, etc. But yeah, they have a pretty lot of farms even today on both sides of the river Nile. So let's continue and learn more about it. Oh, we need to interact and start the store. Let's start the store.
Welcome to Agriculture and Seasons.
This looks so dramatic, like some shot from a movie. Running through long grasses, long wheat field. Okay.
While crops were cultivated in different oases around the desert, most of the arable lands were near the Nile. Two types of cereal grain were cultivated, barley and an ancient wheat known as emmer. These two key ingredients contributed in establishing bread and beer as the staple of the Egyptian diet and the basis of its economy.
So they grew some staple barley. We have that too, and some other crop that we do not have anymore. What are they doing? I can't see properly. Some random things. What do we have here? Can't see properly. Let's continue. Hello, Rinku.
The Ptolemaic era created an agricultural revolution with the introduction of advanced agricultural techniques and new grain types such as rice, durum wheat, and pearl millet. The resulting agricultural mass production greatly increased the economy of ancient Egypt. It also prompted the development of storage and transportation, allowing long-distance trade with other regions.
Okay. So Rinku, I'm not so good with emoticons. Can you explain? Can you write down? What do you mean? Like heart and clap and documents? So you think this is like you're learning stuff that you're liking it? I'm assuming that. If you're watching, you may write down. Like running through the grass is so beautiful. Oh, we didn't want to do that, so sorry. Dramatic, dramatic. Are we going in the right direction? Yes, it's over here. Let's initiate this checkpoint.
Both bread and beer rations were part of a system of barter payment. The state used those goods to pay wages for those who worked in the quarries and at the construction sites. Beer was so important to ancient Egyptians, they had a goddess of beer brewing.
Goddess of beer brewing.
Tenenet is seen in many paintings and sculptures with beer, and women are depicted as the primary beer makers.
Okay. So, okay. Good for you guys. I think we should get our horse.
Whoa! In order to increase agricultural production, fertile land was divided into plots and large agricultural villages were encouraged. The state and temples were the biggest landowners. Depending on the region, fertile land was managed by civil servants or rented to individuals. Ancient Egyptians relied on rudimentary tools for land cultivation. Soil was broken down with hoes, and wing plows were used to make furrows.
People still use that in India, and that was in ancient Egypt. This is so crazy. If you go into rural places in India, people still do that. No wonder farmers are like tax-free, and many other facilities are given to the farmers, but still they are struggling because they don't have proper tools, investments and things like that. Okay, let's not get into that. Let's continue with the tour.
The three seasons known as Akhet, Peret, and Shemu corresponded to a specific phase of the agricultural process and the river's natural changes. Akhet was the time of the flood, beginning with the appearance of the star Sirius in July. Peret was the time when lands were cultivated, plowed, and sown. This fell between October and November. Shemu ran from May to September and was when harvesting and taxation began.
So taxation was seasonal. Interesting. At least they had taxing once a year, I assume, like modern world. Let's get off this. I'm not so sure if it is safe to travel with the horse. We are good. I think we could have used the horse. Come on, horsey, get back here. Yeah. Let's go. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Whoa. The pharaoh's duty was to uphold order against chaos and provide for his people. Priests and local governors also wanted to appear as protectors of the people. However, any variation in the Nile's seasons could cause water shortages. This had devastating consequences on wheat and barley crops. The pharaoh, administrators, and priests knew they needed to demonstrate their ability to prevent such a catastrophe from happening. And so they invented the story, which would be inscribed upon the famine stela.
Okay, so we have a comment. Not understand about the game, but I like the nature farm and agriculture scene. Okay, so what do you think about this? The crops have died because of the uncertainty of water in Nile. Yeah, they are dead. What is this? Are those? Not so sure what this is. But no, we didn't mean to break that. Okay, it's interesting and beautiful. Thank you.
The story begins with the pharaoh worried for his people. The Nile hasn't flooded in years, and his people are starving. In search of the origins of the flooding, Djoser seeks out Khnum, the protector god of the region and the source of the drought. Djoser gives the god offerings and orders his priests to restore the temple of Khnum. These offerings please the god, and the floods are restored. This story was intended to highlight the importance of the deity in everyone's daily lives, while also demonstrating the crucial role that the priests and the king played in feeding and protecting the people of Egypt.
And look at this writing on the stone. Like it looks very new, like it was written yesterday. Beautiful. And somebody took this picture. It doesn't say the time, and I'm assuming that it is original, like it's from Getty Images. Hopefully it is not enhanced in photo editing software or something, but it looks very clear and readable. Anyone who can read hieroglyphics? For some reason there is a big crack in the stone. I'm assuming that when this was written it wasn't there, but interesting. Okay, let's continue. And we have finished this store. What happened to this croc? Is he dead? Uh-oh, he's dead. Maybe he attacked someone and people killed him. Okay, so this is it, guys. We are ending the stream for today. We could easily do more, but we are trying to be on short timings, like short duration streams, but daily. So ending the stream for today. We'll be back again tomorrow around this time, and we'll stream the discovery tour. And once we finish the discovery tour, we'll start the gameplay. So bye bye for today. See you back again tomorrow, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.